Welcome back to Set Streets and Eats, guys. I'm Chris Bauer. I am back in my childhood hometown of Flint, Michigan today to talk about the history of what has become an iconic Michigan hamburger. And it got its roots in the parking lot behind me. No, it wasn't always a parking lot. 101 years ago, there was a little burger stand here that was opened by a man named Samuel Blair called Kewpee Hotel Hamburgs. Now we're going to talk about the history of that place and what blossomed out of that place that's still around today, and what has influenced that place's influence that's still around today. And it's a very interesting history, and it's the history of the olive burger here in Michigan, which, if you've never had one, we're going to try one today. And let me tell you, I've tried them my whole life. I've eaten them my whole life. They're clearly not good for you. I'm not a small man, but they are delicious. So we are going to do the history of Kewpee Hotel Hamburgers and the olive burger, and I hope you'll join me. Let's eat.
Kewpee Hamburg, pickle on top, makes your heart go flippity-flop. Oh, one more time. Kewpee Hamburg, pickle on top, makes your heart go flippity-flop. Kewpee.
So in 1923, Samuel Blair opened his hamburger stand right here. Of course, today it's a parking lot, but back then it was a thriving burger stand that immediately took off. People loved eating at his stand. It only had a few tables in it, but it served delicious olive burgers, delicious malts, and French fries. Anyway, this opened in 1923. By 1926, just 3 years later, Samuel Blair had opened several locations here in the Flint area. There was Kewpee burgers, people loved them, and it got the attention of an Ohio businessman named Ed Adams. He came up and made an offer to Blair for all the franchising rights, which of course Blair took. And it probably could have just been a mix of didn't have time to worry about franchising, or didn't think it was going to be a bigger deal than it was, maybe, who knows, but their deal was simple. Ed would franchise all the locations in the future. Blair, of course, could open up any that he himself opened up. He just couldn't sell the rights to open them up. But anyone that opened had to pay licensing fees to Ed for the name Kewpee Hotel Hamburgers, even though it was Blair's restaurant. However, this was the deal they worked out in 1926. It's very similar to the McDonald's deal or the Burger King deal, where you've got an inventor of a restaurant, someone with a bigger vision comes in just after and kind of sees what it could be. And it's a very similar model in American fast food history, I think. So Samuel Blair ran the original location here and the several local locations until he retired in 1944. However, he died literally 1 year later in 1945, but he had an estate set up that would continue to carry on his licensing and locations going forward, which they did until 1958. In 1958, the estate put up the Blair-owned licensee Kewpee Hotel Hamburger locations. And one of the men that bought them was named Bill Thomas. He bought the original location and several others around here in Flint, and for several years thrived with his Kewpee hamburger versions. Bill Thomas had gotten his start in a Kewpee burger and had been in the restaurant business for several years, and it was a great opportunity for him to own a brand that he had already fallen in love with. Of course, as soon as he purchased them, he started having to pay his licensing fees to the hotel hamburger division or specialty system, whatever their company was called down in Toledo, Ohio, like all the other licensees had been doing, which he was happy to do. Those rights went to Bill Thomas. He had that original location and several others around here in Flint, including a very iconic one that we're gonna go check out next.
I'd like a hamburger, can you make it for me? I'd like a hamburger with a slice of cheese. I'd like a hamburger, I'm begging you please for a hamburger. I'd like a hamburger on a toasted bun. I'd like a hamburger, can I get it well done? I'd like a hamburger, hurry up, I gotta run, give me a hamburger. Oh, please, Mr. Burger Jockey, don't be slow. I got a bus to catch and a lawn to mow. Gotta swing by the dentist for a cavity. Then I'm getting married at 3:15. Life is a dream. I now pronounce you cutie pie and knucklehead. I'd like a hamburger, can you fill my order for a hamburger with a glass of water? Like a hamburger, cause I only got a quarter for a hamburger. A hamburger. A ham. Second thought, I think I'll have the chili.
So in 1965, things got a little more interesting. So Ed Adams, as I mentioned before, had held the rights, the franchising rights, since 1926, when he had bought them from Samuel Blair. And they had many hundreds of locations. And they had always had kind of a loose arrangement with their licensees. However, in 1965, they basically reincorporated and got serious about it. Ed was still president, and they reformatted their company. And in 1967, they let all of their current licensees know that if you wanted to keep the Kewpee name, you were going to have to start paying them franchise fees and bigger fees or cuts of the profits. Either way, it was a big change from the way they had done it. And a lot of their locations either closed shop completely or changed their names. And that's what's important a part of Bill Thomas's story here in Flint. Because Bill Thomas, instead of deciding to keep going with the Kewpee name, decided to tweak the menu a little bit and change the name of his several Kewpee burgers here in Flint and change them to Halo Burger. And Halo Burger is still around today in Flint. And I'm in front of the Verner's mural, which has been an icon of Flint for decades, which is right next to the oldest location of Halo Burger in downtown Flint. Now, it is closed for renovation right now. Otherwise, you would see how amazing it looks on the inside. I'm gonna show you some pictures, but it is a beautiful, beautiful place. I used to eat here all the time growing up. It's very cool. Either way, this has been, as they say, it's been around since 23 because they are referencing Kewpee, and they are still around today. And you can see some of the gorgeous architecture. The building's quite old, but yes, they are renovating. I don't know how long it's going to take them or what exactly they're doing, but I do hope it gets open soon because it is an icon of Flint and has been around for generations, and I hope it continues to be here. But having said all that, let's get back to the original idea behind this, the olive burger. Through all these changes, through all these decades, the olive burger was first introduced there at the Kewpee stand and was carried on, and still is today, by Halo Burger and many restaurants around Michigan. You can go into a lot of burger places in Michigan and get an olive burger. Now, they do it several ways, and they don't just throw olives on a burger. It's a sauce, but we'll get into that when we go try one. But Halo Burger is known for theirs, and it's because it's made from the original recipe of Kewpee. So it's very iconic, and we're gonna go try one. Now, of course, I'm gonna take you guys with me. Here we are in Halo Burger. This is the olive burger. I've eaten many of these in my lifetime, let me tell you. Something about the mix of the olives with the rest of the toppings of the burger just really goes well together. Olives really complement the cheeseburger, much like they complement a pizza. So as we were discussing the timeline out there, they have it in the store as well. 1923. They have the dates all over here, and then right down here it tells what the dates are from. Samuel Blair, of course, started there at 415 Harrison Street selling Kewpee Hotel Hamburgs. Bill Thomas started working at Kewpee Hotel Hamburgs and then changed them in 1967 to Bill Thomas Halo Burger. And then some other timeline bullet points throughout history. That's all well and good. I do have a couple nitpicks I have to pick. The first would be the pictures in here. This is the location we were just at. Notice the name's already Halo Burger. And then this one, the most important one, is already named Halo Burger when this is the original location that was started in 1928. That's already not only named Halo Burger or Halo Hotel Hamburgers, but it's also got a slogan, which means for the decor of the restaurant, they photoshopped the photos. Is that a big deal? No. However, it is in history. I'm not big on whitewashing history and changing historical facts like that. Sure, it ended up being Halo Burgers. He ended up changing the name of those locations decades later. But that location on Harrison Street was always Kewpee Burgers for many, many decades. It was a very historic place. So going back, saying circa 1928 and having Halo Burger already on it, with a slogan, I might add, I don't know. That didn't happen until 1967. So I just have just a little problem with it. But your business, it's just some photos in your restaurant. That's just my 2 cents. Now that we've got a little taste of the Halo Burger version of the olive burger, now we finish our history at the actual source, the real final Kewpee Burgers.
A dream took shape in 1928. Burgers and fries to fill your plate. Stub and June, a couple true. Open Kewpee serving food for you. It's more than a meal, it's a memory. Kewpee is a taste of history. Hamburgers, pies, malts and more. Pickle on top makes your heart go flippity-flop. Downtown Lima, a growing town. Kewpee's fame, so renowned. A family-friendly local spot. Memories made can never be forgot. It's more than a meal, it's a memory. Kewpee is a taste of history. Hamburgers, pies, malts and more. Pickle on top makes your heart go flippity-flop.
Which brings us finally to Lima, Ohio. Behind me is one of the 3 last remaining original Kewpee Hotel Hamburgers, now commonly known as Kewpee Hamburgers. So as I mentioned before, Ed Adams came up from Toledo in 1926, 3 years after Blair had started the Kewpee Burger, and bought the franchising rights. And then in 1928, just 2 years after that, Stub Wilson and his wife bought their first franchise here in Lima and built their first location here. They opened up multiple locations. By 1929, in addition to theirs, there were many others. There were over 200 locations by 1929. They built this location behind me in 1939, and it has been here ever since. Isn't that crazy? 1939. By World War II, there was over 400 locations nationwide. Of course, after World War II, into the 1950s, is when the explosion of fast food chains hit America, and Kewpee Burger started losing its market share and started getting less and less locations. And over the decades, the hundreds of locations have now been whittled down to 3 Kewpee Burgers left. Plus, there are 2 franchise locations that are still paying franchise rights. They don't have the exact name of Kewpee Burger, they just have Kewpee in the name. One is in Lansing, Michigan, one is in Racine, Wisconsin. I believe they're known as sandwich shops, Kewpee sandwich shops. But we are gonna go in and actually experience a real Kewpee Burger, one of 3 locations here in Lima, Ohio, in an original Kewpee Burger building from 1939. Give you the Kewpee Olive Burger. This is the original. Notice the square burger patty. Square burger first started here at Kewpee Burger. Corners stick out because it's square. It's a very important detail to Kewpee Burger because back in, I believe it was the 1940s, when Kewpee Burger was at its peak, there was a Kewpee Burger in Kalamazoo, Michigan, not far from where a young Dave Thomas grew up. And Dave Thomas grew up eating at Kewpee Burger. And one of the things he remembered in a 2001 interview was the square patties from his favorite childhood burgers. And he incorporated those into his restaurant that he started in 1969, Wendy's Restaurants. Oh man, this is so good. Fresh ingredients. The Miracle Whip instead of mayonnaise has a zing to it. And of course, the olives set it off. Delicious. And you cannot beat this building. Come on. They don't make buildings like this anymore. It's awesome. Even on their labels, they still have one of their old slogans from their old commercials. Hamburg pickle on the top makes your heart go flippity flop.
Kewpee Hamburg pickle on top makes your heart go flippity flop. Kewpee.
It's old. Their wrappers are still from 1986. That's pretty awesome. Some of their other slogans that they used in different commercials were a mighty nice hamburger, with mighty being spelled M-I-T-Y, which is a very old spelling. You can imagine that being around World War II. Also, your grandpappy ate here, which they still have on the sign on the building, on the wall. And they're probably right. So a lot of our grandpappies did eat here. Especially if they grew up in the Midwest. Slogan still on the cups too. Very cool. Another one of their slogans is we cater to all the folks. That's on there as well. It's an interesting history to go from Flint, Michigan in 1923 to here in Lima, Ohio in 2024, 101 years later. Still around. Still with the same logo. Same great taste. Pretty impressive. So the Allen Burger, again, Michigan staple, is now here in Ohio, which makes sense. It's touching Michigan. But if you've never experienced one, you should get one today. Either come to Kewpee Burger or really any burger place in Michigan has them, especially Halo Burger around Flint and the north of Flint surrounding areas. There's many Halo Burger locations that all used to be Kewpee Burgers, and there's several other Michigan burger locations that have them as well. Highly recommend them. Everybody does them a little bit different. All the burgers are very unique and delicious. It's a very, very delicious topping. Kewpee Burger definitely fits into the nostalgia of the Americana experience when it comes to fast food. And the fact that this old one's still here today, still going strong, serving up great burgers is really, really cool and very cheap. Those burgers were only $3.50 a piece. You really can't beat the deal. And they were delicious. So highly recommend, 10 out of 10. There's 2 other locations here in Lima. One of them seats up to 180 people. This is definitely the oldest and original location and doesn't seat that many people. But they got a couple big ones here too. So I hope you guys enjoyed this history of the Kewpee Hotel Hamburgers. Come check them out, and hope you guys enjoyed this history, and we'll see you at the next one. Bye now.
Oh, one more time. Kewpee Hamburg, pickle on top, makes your heart go flippity-flop.